Morning, Coach. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, and please, yep. Go ahead, Coach. Please begin. Thank you.
Go ahead. Just a few notes here, and then I'll answer your questions. It'll be the third year in a row that we play Notre Dame, and that's unique. It's good. It's exciting. They're a national brand. They're a great program and outstanding team, and not many people get to play them 3 years in a row. And we were not supposed to, but COVID changed that, and it put us in a really a 2-for-1 type situation where we played here a couple of years ago, and sadly enough, it was announced we had 3,535 fans here for the last game because of our restrictions for COVID. So our fans didn't get to see the real Notre Dame play at our place. So that should add to the excitement and atmosphere on Saturday for sure. Both of our games with them have been very competitive going into the fourth quarter, and they've been tougher than we have and had more confidence in the fourth quarter. And they did that last week against Cal. They won 10-0 in the fourth quarter last week. So that's who they are. And you have to have low pads, and you have to be as tough as they are up front, because they're one of the best lines of scrimmage on both sides in the country. And that hasn't changed. And the other thing that you have to give them credit for is they've won 19 straight regular season ACC games, 19 straight. So they have dominated this league in regular season games without question. And again, that's such a credit for them. And the other thing they've done is they're so consistent. They're good every year. We want to get our program where it's like theirs. And their kids are bright. They have top 10 recruiting classes every year. They play hard. They're well coached. So you just have to give them all the credit in the world. Marcus Freeman played against us 3 times when I was at Texas. He was a linebacker that was an all Big Ten selection. He played in the NFL. He played for Jim Tressel, and then he came back and he was a graduate assistant for Jim Tressel in 2010, and then coached for Luke Fickell and Brian Kelly. And when you're talking about who raised you, he's been raised by Jim Tressel, who's one of the greatest to ever coach, and Luke Fickell, who will be a Hall of Famer, and Brian Kelly, who will be in the Hall of Fame as soon as he quits coaching. So Marcus has been raised right, and he hired a tremendous staff. He kept quite a few of the guys, but he also he got a lot of the guys to come in. And your first coaching job, you don't want to open up with a new staff at Ohio State. Ohio State may be the best team in the country, and if not, they're in that group. So that's a very, very difficult task. And they were ahead going into the second half. And it was a great game. So that's the Notre Dame team that we'll see. Then you go play Marshall, and they were so disappointed after the opener. They didn't play with as much energy. It didn't look like at Marshall, and they lose their quarterback with a new staff. And the new staff, we've got new staff members on defense, and it's taken us some time to get everybody on the same page. Thank goodness our offensive staff had coached together a lot, and with Coach Bicknell coaching with Coach Longo at Ole Miss and Coach Porter at Auburn, that's been an easier transition for us. But new staffs are tough, and trying to figure out exactly what everybody does during a game is tough. And we don't have preseason like the NFL. So I felt like we saw the Notre Dame team in the second half at Cal that we're going to see Saturday. We saw the emotion against Ohio State. I've told our guys that's who we're going to see. We're not going to see Marshall or Cal's emotion, but we're going to see a team that was highly motivated, executed really well the second half against Cal, and starting with Drew Pine, the quarterback. I think he was 4 for 9 in the first half and maybe 12 for 13 the second half, but he lit it up. He did everything right. He led his team well. They ran the ball really well, and they always play good defense. So it should be a great game. It'll be a tremendous challenge for us. I look forward to it. This is a fun challenge. And obviously they've been better than the rest of us during the regular season when they played, because they won. So we have a chance to do something that not any other team in this league's done for a long time. So questions?
All right, first question, CL Brown, go ahead.
Hey, Mack, Jeremy told us that Josh Downs and Antoine Green would be evaluated on Saturday, but I was curious, are they actually like taking hits in practice? Like have they eased back into that phase, or are they just still kind of working their rehab?
CL, it's a hard question to answer because receivers usually don't get hit a lot during practice. It's thud. So they have been thud. We don't tackle during the season, during practice. So that'll be the question is, number one, will they be ready to go on Saturday? And number two, their first tackles will be in the game if they play. So it's a little bit harder. You don't want to hurt them in practice, but you got to get them ready to go. So, and we've told both kids, you play, even if the doctor tells you you're ready and you don't feel like it, don't play. That's up to you. That'll be a decision they'll make.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Andrew Jones, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, so how do you balance the message this week of the importance of playing a team that's a step up from what you've played and the way that Notre Dame plays, but also the emotional factor? I know you said in the past you don't want teams to emotionally play a game too soon. So in your messaging, how do you balance that this week?
Andrew, what we started with back in January because of the inconsistency last year was regardless of who you play to a standard and practice to a standard. And I talk to them all the time about not playing games on Tuesday. I've done that before as a coach, and you can absolutely use so much energy Tuesday and Wednesday that you're worn out by game time. And that's a dangerous thing when you're playing a national brand where media is talking more about Notre Dame than they did Georgia State or FAMU, obviously. And our fans they're more excited. They were excited about App State because that doesn't happen very often. And App State's a very good program. So, and then I didn't think as many played as well at Georgia State as we should have. So, I thought they had a lot of enthusiasm yesterday, but I thought they practiced better today. It was more of a business like go back to work. We've got to play better than they do. We just can't talk better. And that's a hard task. So, and I've challenged both lines of scrimmage. We will play better lines of scrimmage Saturday than we've played for 3 weeks. So I want to see our offensive line try to block one of the best defensive lines in the country, and they're too deep. And they have hammered people, and their offensive line in the second half against Cal last week lined up, and they were physical, and they just ran the ball right down their throats. And then Tommy Reese, their offensive coordinator, did an outstanding job of getting Drew Pine some throws off play action and moving him some. And so I thought that it's kind of funny. I would have rather played him the first game that Drew started. We've seen him now, but he's much more comfortable in that second half than he was the first half. So, and he was a really good high school player out of New Haven, Connecticut. We were all aware of him, and he was very, very highly recruited. So there aren't any bad players at Notre Dame. They're all very highly recruited, and they get their choice of most recruits, and that's why they're good players.
Is practicing better today a sign to you that they're handling the process of this week the way you would like?
Yes, I thought practice has been good. I've said that I didn't like last year's practices some. I've liked this team's practices in the spring and the fall. I haven't liked the inconsistency in the games, and that's been more on defense than offense. So hopefully we'll see a continuation of what we saw in the fourth quarter at Georgia State on defense, especially after an extra week to evaluate the 3 weeks that we had and improve some things. And we've got some competition at positions again where we have said, if you're not playing well, we're going to look at other guys. So it's up to you. But this week, overall, Andrew, this week has been good for practice. I'm pleased. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Trevon Miles.
Hey, Coach, you talked extensively about those road wins and how proud you were of those earlier this week. But quietly, you guys have also been handling business for almost a year now at home. What kind of environment are you expecting or hoping for at Kenan Stadium on Saturday with a big-time opponent coming?
Trevon, this one's been sold out for a long time. And I know when we were at Texas, we were a national brand. So everywhere we'd go, it was sold out. And Notre Dame's used to that. That's who they are. And people love to see them. And they have a tremendous following across the country because they're a national program. So I think this, I would expect this to be the best crowd as far as atmosphere and environment since I've been back. And we've had some really good ones. Miami was a great crowd the first year. It was loud and made a difference in the program. But this one, I was disappointed when we could only have 3,500 a couple of years ago because your fans don't get to see Notre Dame very often. So this will be fun for our fans, and I think they'll be really excited about it.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Brian Murphy, go ahead.
Thanks. Hey, Mac. I don't know if you had to deal with it last night, but Drake's comments. Did you have a conversation with him at some point last night? And that's certainly probably not what you wanted to deal with during Notre Dame week.
No, you can't be cute anymore. He's trying to be funny, and it was, Drake is one of the nicest young people I've ever met in my life, and he's got great faith, and he always wants to be classy and do things right. And he was cutting up with you all, and I said, you can't do it. I'm a smart aleck. I like to cut up. I like to laugh. I like to tell funny stories, and that kind of dies now, and with social media and modern day. He was absolutely cutting up. Obviously, it wasn't true. And I talked to him after practice today a little bit. He said, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be a distraction. I didn't mean to do anything wrong. I was just having fun. And I said, I know you're 18, 19 years old. Have fun, but always be very respectful of everybody. And especially your neighbors. And NC State's got a great university. And again, it was fun. And it was a young guy trying to cut up and enjoy you all and be relaxed before a big game, and it just didn't come across right.
Have we lost that a little bit? I mean, telling jokes or tweaking your rival a little bit.
I think we have. I think we got way too much serious opinions, and maybe it's a product of social media. And I mean, people pick at each other all the time. So at lunch, the NC State and Carolina people can pick at each other and it's okay. But for somebody to say something publicly that somebody wants to get mad, you got a lot of people out there that are looking for something to get mad at. And oh my gosh, I got me a tweet here. I can get mad about this. This would be great. I can be angry and scream and shout and talk about how awful the world is. So I told him, I love you. I appreciate you. I'm glad you represent us. I want you to keep having fun, but you've got to be very, very respectful of people with your fun. You can't cross the line. And last night it was a joke, but in some people, the people that wanted to be angry, it crossed the line. Thanks, Brian. I did that some when I got to Texas. I was cutting up and laughing, and I'd come home and Sally'd say, "Did you really say that?" And I said, "Yeah, I was kidding." She said, "Well, they missed that part." So you just have to quit doing it. It's a shame that we can't laugh and cut up. I like you guys. I respect you very much. I like having fun with you. And sometimes you get so you're in this little world and you forget that what I say is going to be in that other world where there's a lot of people that aren't sitting and listening. And I think Twitter's also changed press conferences, because you say something early in a press conference and you want to be first and you tweet it. And that's not what the guy said, but you thought it was going to be what he said, and you wanted to be first. So that's made things much different now too, as people get pieces of stuff. And I've always said, and I told Drake this today, sometimes it's not what you say or what you mean, it's what they hear. And it may not be your point at all. And that's what's made it tougher. I talk to young head coaches all the time that say, how do you handle this? And they jumped all over me about this. And I didn't mean that. And I said, you just got to be you. You got to be you and do the best you can do and try to be fair and try to be honest. And I always feel like you should be classy. But there are coaches that I've coached against that said a lot worse things about their rival than what Drake said. And said it publicly, still do every day. That's just not the way we run our place.
Okay, let's go over to Alvaro Torres.
Hi, Coach. I hope you're doing a great day. Thank you for your time. Well, you have the fourth highest scoring offense in the nation without Josh Downs and Antoine Green. What do you think the ceiling can be for this offense once they come back?
The offense can be really, really good. It's we've been good on offense since we've been here. The question mark is, can we block an offensive or a defensive line like Notre Dame's? That's how good is this offense going to be against the best opponent we've played? And I want to see that. There's a lot of youth. I want to see them respond on Saturday. And it's one of the things I'm very excited about is who are we? We've played 3 opponents that we were better than their defenses. We're not going to be better than Notre Dame's defense. It's going to be an even tough fight throughout the day. And I want to see our guys fight. And we were talking about Drake. Drake's had a great week's practice. So I don't going to App State. He didn't change anything. I mean, he's who he is. So I don't think he will change, but we've got to be able to successfully run the ball against a good team. And we've got to be able to protect. Those are the 2 things that we'll find out more Saturday afternoon.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Adam Smith, go ahead.
Hey, Mac. Well, just sort of what you're talking about with, it kind of being a fight on the line of scrimmage. I was just wondering, like last year, the Notre Dame game, do you think, just looking back on it, that 91-yard run, you've talked about it a lot, was that in any way just emblematic of what you all went through for a season as a whole? I mean, you got the guy behind the line of scrimmage, pinned way back, and then all of a sudden he breaks it for a touchdown and the whole game changes. I mean, like it seems like that play just was sort of a microcosm of what y'all went through.
Yeah, Adam, you go back to even the first year that they have maybe a 90-something yard run at the end of the game. There's 5 minutes left. We're down by 7, and we're not making any first downs, but we have a chance to win the game. Get a stop. And at some point we had to make a play because they were just dominating our offense. But they go down and score with less than 5 minutes left to put the game away. I thought last year, the 4th and 3, where we stopped them, get off the field, and it ended up being a face mask that's away from the ball, was a killer. And then I felt like I think we overthrew a screen as we were going into score with a lead to Josh. And then the 91-yard run, which he has absolutely stopped inside. And he bounces all the way outside and goes the length of the field. So, but those are things that they've done well. They've done a better job with not having penalties than we have. They've done a better job on making the key play late in the game that changes the game. And I've talked to our team about that today. We had a thought of the day today from Kobe Bryant talking about confidence and how hard you have to practice and how well you have to do these things in practice before they can translate to the games. And that's who we are. We're trying to get to that point.
Yeah, I guess my point is with that too, is does that moments like that, games like that last year, did that sort of all build into your finish message, the message about having to finish? I mean, that seems like it's been, such a strong point you've made.
Yes, absolutely. Because they outscored Cal 10-0 fourth quarter last week. That's what they pride themselves on. We talk about it. We pride ourselves on it. We got to start doing it. And that's when you play a team like this, that's had such great success year after year. That's what we've told them, is that you want to emulate what Notre Dame's done for years. And that's to be consistently good every week and not have the up and down games like we've had since we've been here, but especially last year. And I feel like they at least know that, and they understand that. Now we've got to do it, and we've got to have success doing it before you can really have the confidence that that that's who you are.
Cool. Thank you, Mac.
Thank you, Adam.
Ross Martin, go ahead.
Hey, Mac, not to linger on this distraction, but the decision
to linger on the distraction.
Yeah, but the decision for Drake to tweet out apology, was that from Jeremy, from you, from him personally? I was wondering, because I know Courtney Banghart, who I know you're friends with, had a tweet out an apology 2 when she said something about NC State. So I was kind of wondering the sports information communications role in that, or if you had a role in that.
Yeah, the Drake and I and Jeremy all didn't like the way it sounded. So we just Jeremy texted me. He sent me your tweet. I was glad you got it out there. Glad you're helping a young guy get through this as a distraction, but that's your job. And I thought, that's not, it's a joke. It's funny. So number one, I didn't want Drake to be beaten up over it because he was cutting up, and I've done that my whole life. I do it with you all and ask you not to say it. And he's young. And I didn't want him to get burned, so he didn't want to talk to the media ever again. And so I just felt like that modern day, if something's not what we want it to be as a family in North Carolina football, that's not who we are, then let's fix it and let's move forward. And he and Jeremy did that.
Got it. If I didn't tweet it, somebody else would have. So
There's no question.
And the second question here, this Notre Dame game, I mean, what opportunity for y'all? What could this mean in terms of kind of this season, getting to 4-0, not to look ahead, but it kind of sets y'all up nicely for the remaining of the schedule and kind of a almost like a turning point for where the season could go if you were to win. Is that something you think about? I think you're muted, Coach. Question was too hard. It seems.
No, I must have bumped it on purpose, probably. No, what we've been is we've been a good team. We win 7 the first year, and that's so much better than 2. And then the next year we win 8 and go to the the Orange Bowl for the first time in our school history. And then last year we were mad at 6, which 3 years ago would have been 2 or 3 times as many games as we won. So we've been a good program. And what we've got to do, Ross, in my opinion, is we have to beat somebody like Notre Dame to become a great program. We've been good. To be great, you've got to beat really good teams on a national basis to take another step. And if you look at what they've done, we haven't beaten them very often, and people in this league haven't beaten them very often. So that's a great challenge for us. But this is an opportunity. I call them fun opportunities. And I've told the players that. What a great opportunity we have to take another step. Now, if you win this one, then next week they got to get ready for Virginia Tech, who's playing on Thursday, and they got 10 days to prepare. And so it never stops, and you can't start looking long-term at anything anymore in sports. But I do think that people will not expect us to win nationally, because this is a game we haven't won. And we've been close, which doesn't even count for 2 years. So this is a great challenge for us, and it's a great opportunity nationally to show that our program's taken another step.
Okay, over to Brandon P. Go ahead.
Hey, Coach. I was just wondering, what are some of the keys to stopping Notre Dame tight end Michael Mayer, and what are some of the challenges a versatile athlete at that spot presents to your defense?
Yeah, Brandon, I feel like he's probably the best tight end in the country. We haven't stopped him the last 2 years. He's so big. He's such a mismatch for safeties and linebackers, and they move him around a lot. They've done a very good job with formations to make you cover him one-on-one. They ran the ball so much the other day in the second half and controlled the line of scrimmage, they didn't throw it to him as much. But you have to be aware of him. He's going to be the touchdown maker when you get down in the red zone. They're just going to go to him because he's so athletic, so big, and so strong, and he's a great young guy, and he competes, man. He's one of those that blocks as well as can run the routes and catch. So we're proud of our tight ends. I think every tight end in the country needs to be looking at him. And what you've got to do is number one is stop the run. And that's very, very difficult to do with them. They've got big backs. They've got a huge offensive line. Most of those guys have played for a while. So that if you don't stop the run, the game's over. They're going to have time of possession on you. They're going to beat you down. And then the play action stuff to the tight ends and the wideouts get easy. and the running backs, and that's who they are. So as good as he is, we have to worry about stopping the run, which we haven't done well for 3 weeks before we can even start thinking about stopping their passing game.
Great. Well, Coach, that was our last question this morning. So appreciate you joining us for a few minutes.
Thank you, folks, and I will see you Saturday.